To another lesson. Our learning goal, as written at the top of your guide notes, is I can distribute and combine like terms with decimal and fraction coefficients. So let's get started. Our first question that we're going to tackle is simplifying this expression. 2/3 times the parentheses 4/5 x minus 3. So remember, when multiplying fractions, you simply have to multiply across. Multiply the numerators by each other and multiply the denominators by each other. So when we're distributing this 2/3 into the 4/5 x, which is the first term inside the binomial, we get 2 times 4, which is 8, 3 times 5, which is 15. There's no variable part on the outside, so we just simply keep the x right there. Next, we're going to distribute to the second term. We're going to keep the subtraction sign, and then we're going to do 2/3 times 3. Now remember that when multiplying a fraction by a whole number, the whole number is actually a fraction. This 3 is actually 3 over 1, so what we're doing is 2/3 times 3 over 1, and lucky for us, we can cross cancel. Because 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 3 once. So therefore we end up with 2 over 1, which is in fact the same thing as 2. So the simplified version of this is 8/15 x minus 2. Our next example looks slightly intimidating because we have variables inside the numerator. But it's not all that different. In fact, x over 3 can be treated as 1/3 x. Because remember that x in itself is also a fraction. X itself is x over 1. So what that really is 1/3 times x over 1. Which if we were to multiply that across, we'd simply do 1 times x, which is 1x, which is the same thing as x, and 3 times 1, which is 3. So therefore, for all intents and purposes, this is 1/3 x times 2/3 x plus 4/5 minus 80 over 81 x squared. All of that is the exact same thing. It does not matter. X squared is in the numerator, so therefore we treat it as if it were by itself on its own. Again, we're going to distribute. We're going to do 1/3 x times 2/3 x. We do 1 times 2, which is 2, 3 times 3, which is 9. X times x, as you remember, is x squared, and that is the first term. The second term we're going to distribute to is 4/5, so we're going to do 1/3 x times 4/5. That gets us 4. 1 times 4. 3 times 5 is 15. We have an x out here, no x out here, so we have 4/15 x. We're going to change this to plus minus 80 over 81 x squared. Now we have like terms with the 2/9 x squared and the negative 81, or 80 over 81 x squared. So in order to add these terms, we're going to have to get common denominators. So this is going to turn into, we'll have to multiply by 9 over 9 to get 81 as our common denominator. 18 over 81 x squared plus 4/15 x plus negative 80 over 81 x squared. Our next step is to add these two together, which gets us our 18 plus negative 80 is negative 62 over 81 x squared plus 4/15 x. And that is our final answer. Because nothing can go into 62 and 81. Go ahead and try this one on your own. Remember that this is a minus 1x right there. So remember that this is 5/6 times 7/12 minus x minus 11/36 x squared. Take that into consideration. We need to simply distribute this part, so we get 5 times 7 is 35, 6 times 12 is 72x, minus Here this is simply 1, so 1 times anything is itself, so 5, 6, x times x is x squared. Bring down the minus 1136 x squared. We are going to have to combine like terms here because we have a like term right here and a like term right here in our trinomial. So we're going to make this addition of the opposite and addition of the opposite. We're going to change this to have a common denominator with this, which our common denominator is going to be 36. 35 2x plus negative, multiply this by 6, multiply this 6, we get 30 over 36 plus negative 11 over 36 x squared, x squared. And our final answer is to combine these two, which gets us negative 30 plus negative 11 is negative 41 36 x squared plus 35 over 72x. Next we're going to do this same thing except with decimals. In this problem, we're going to start off with distribution because distribution is multiplication. 0.4x plus, we're going to distribute this into it. 0.5 times 5.6 is in fact 2.8x minus 0.5 times 2.5 gets us 1.25. Next we're going to combine our like terms because they're right here. This has an x, this has an x. So therefore we get 3.2x, 0.4 plus 2.8 minus 1.25. The exact same principles, just using decimals. Try this next question on your own. To do this question, we need to distribute the 9.4 to the 2.1, 9.4x to the 2.1. When we do that, we get 19.74x. Then we're going to do the same thing over here, which gets us 0.94. We have an x here and a b here, xb. Next, we're going to take a look at the next binomial and distribute the 0.4 into it. So that gets us 0.4 times 1.2 is 0.48x. I'm going to do the same thing with this one over here, plus 1.76xb, because this has an xb right there. Then we need to combine like terms. These two are like terms, and these two are like terms. So let's start with the x's. We're going to put them next to each other. 19.74x plus 0.48x. We're going to change this to an addition of the opposite. Plus negative 0.94xb plus 1.76xb. So when we combine these two terms, we get 20.22x plus, and then we have these two terms. When added together, we get 0.82xb. Hope you will be able to understand what's going on here. Remember, this is simply the same thing except for with decimals and fractions.